Today I'd like to take a sec to talk about some concepts about happiness, the ideas of what goes into joy and happiness and these emotions and feelings and things that you want. And a lot of times trying to distinguish between them, because happiness is one of those emotions that shift back and forth. And it's important that it does that. It's important that we understand that in order for things to be one way, there has to be something different, and being comfortable with the place in between. In other words, realizing that if these things make you very happy, that must automatically bring up the concept that there are things that don't. And then coming to a higher place of understanding where the things themselves are not bringing you happiness or something less than happiness. It's your belief inside your head that controls this. In other words, this measuring, this thing that we do when we compare and measure and we look at things. And one of the parts of this concept that helps some people that I've talked to is the idea that having lived through their whole life feeling that if I get what I want, I'll be happy, puts you in a constant state of lack. In other words, it's basically saying for you to say, if I get what I want, I'll be happy, that must mean there are things that you don't have. And obviously those things you want because you have a concept of what they'll do to you or for you, which totally, again, puts the power out of you and into the things. Instead of learning to enjoy what you have and, treasure it, also being willing to let it go because all things change. So where you put your focus and where your mind goes will tend to control a lot of what you are feeling, because it's you doing the controlling, you measuring in your own mind, and then you letting go of the measurements themselves. It's like stages, understanding that, many of the things, the emotions, the what's rumbling around in our head is more under our control than we assume. Now you have to exercise that control in order to get better at it. And until you do, it kind of does what it wants. You let your mind sort of take control. When it does that, you get what you get. When you start to exert control in your mind and understanding in your mind, and then you are the one in charge of your mind, things will shift. So looping back into this whole happiness thing, a lot of times, it becomes a case of me asking, if you're telling me getting things makes you happy, then it must be lack of things that makes you sad. And people go, well, kind of, sort of, yes. And I said, well, that's interesting, because there are a lot of things that you have, at least temporarily in the moment. You have, your clothes, you have your life, whatever level of health you have. And immediately when there's the negative that comes out in people, they will say, well, yeah, there's these things I don't have. I'm not as healthy as I used to be, or I'm not as healthy as this person. See that comparison thing? Or then they will flip it over and go, well, yeah, I have these things, but see, I would rather have those things. And I don't know if you've ever observed, a lot of times kids will spend a lot of time, and of course now I guess adults too, that I think about it, window shopping, looking at things they want. They desperately want these things, and they'll do whatever they can to get them. And then all of their energy is exerted into the wanting. And it becomes its own special game of wanting and chasing after something else. And then when they get it, the minute they have it, they take it home and they look at it and go, oh, that's pretty. And they throw it on the couch. Okay, now what else can I acquire? And it's the same way with many things, wealth, even power. Things become boring quite quickly once they have it. In fact, they have become addicted. And that is the word I want to use, addicted to the wanting, to the chase. In other words, they have become accustomed and seek out more of the feelings that come with not having something, with not having an emotion, with not having the thing they want, with not having, certain qualities, certain people in their life and all that. And when you focus your world on this, then your whole world starts to get to a point where you spend all of your time chasing. You're on the little wheel in the hamster cage, if you will, running constantly, going nowhere. Because if you reach a destination, the destination isn't really what you wanted. You wanted the running towards the destination. So you immediately have to put that aside and run for something else. And how does that affect your ideas of happiness? Well, in order to feed that addiction of the constant want, you have to lock into the idea of a constant lack. And instead of realizing that your life is abundance and that there's lots of things at your disposal and lots of things you do have, you spend so much time thinking about what you don't have. There's a joke that goes with this. Might as well tell it because it's rolling around in my head. When I was a kid, I heard this joke that, stick with it as kind of like a funny magical joke. There was an eyeball sitting on a windowsill, and the little eyeball could see out into the world, kind of halfway see. Didn't have a lot of control over what it saw. But it was sitting there wishing one day that, if there was two of me, I could actually focus and see more in depth and see more things. And so, the fairy godmother came down and said, fine, poof, there were two eyeballs. The two eyeballs were sitting there thinking, well, if we actually had ears, we could hear what it is we see, and that would allow us to get more. Okay, poof, there's your ears. Well, we're really not complete because we need a nose. We need to keep building on these senses. We can smell things too. If we have a nose, fine, here's a nose. And then the eyeballs go, well, just make us a whole head. And so the fairy godmother says, fine, you're a whole head. You have all of those things. You can see, you can hear, you can do all these things. You can, you can think. We got all the parts necessary. And the head kind of like, this is just not enough. And the fairy godmother said, really, this is enough. No. Can't have that. I want more. Can you give me, like a body? Really, the fairy godmother says, no, please, a body so that I can look further up. I'm higher up. I can see more. Fine, here's the body. Well, can you throw in some arms and legs? Come on, I want to be able to get around. I want to go play. I see those kids out there and they're playing ball and they're running around and riding bicycles, and I don't think it's a good idea. And so, the eyeball kept begging to, fine, here's your arms and legs, here's everything, just a whole complete everything. And the eyeball was so elated, it got up and it ran out to play with the other kids, and it ran out into the street and got ran over. Of course, the moral of the story. You should have stopped while you were ahead. Okay, all right, I know but it's one of those jokes I had as a kid that sticks in my head because it reminds me that we never do get to a point of enough and go, okay, I'm content. It's very hard to find someone these days that's content because everyone's looking for something more in order to fill those needs, instead of going, instead of learning how to want what you have and enjoy it while you have it. We spend all of our time worried about what we don't have or what we've lost or what someone else has. And those states do not bring happiness. Happiness comes from being able to look around and enjoy what you have, let it go when it's time for it to go, and being able to find contentment in little things. And that's it. Enjoy it. We spend so much of our time trying to find or do other things that it does create a lot of problems, instead of taking a second to relax and enjoy. And these are the gifts of mindfulness and meditation: being able to observe, breathe, be at peace, and you will find contentment in that way. You will find contentment in many things in your life: people, what you have, where you're at, what you're doing, noticing what you enjoy, and not focusing so hard on what you don't enjoy and you don't want. Every moment of your day can be filled with contentment, which generally more will make you happy most of the time. Yes, there will be things that happen that you may not enjoy and you may not like. Overall, though, the state of contentment will be there. Understanding that, in this sense, making yourself an observer of the phenomena in your life, not making yourself, looking out and only wanting. I guess it's like explaining things in how video games work for some people. When you have video games, you have first person or third person. First person is looking out your own eyes. The third person is that pullback view that a game will give you, where you can see yourself and everything else in the game moving around. So mindfulness allows you that third person pullback, and it allows you to observe everything there and figure out what it is you want and what it is you have, and then be able to adjust in your mind what's going on, and then drift away from the I want and be able to simply observe in peace. And peace is another thing that can bring contentment and happiness, being able to just relax and be in that moment. So as you can see, I got back to the same point I try to make often. There is a purpose to being mindful. There is a purpose to being able to relax, work with yourself, control your breathing, center yourself, ground yourself. And however you find you need to do that, whether it's, through some other process of yoga or running, there are lots of ways to come to this. There are many different roads to the same destination. So find one and take it. I hope you have a great day. And it was very nice to talk to you today. And I hope everything in your life is what you want in your life. Namaste.